It was a moment that no one could have predicted. For years, humanity had been advancing, exploring the cosmos and pushing the boundaries of what was possible. The stars had once been within their grasp, with space stations orbiting distant planets, missions reaching the farthest reaches of the galaxy, and ships traveling faster than ever before. Earth had become a powerful force in the universe, with technology and knowledge that could change the fate of entire worlds. But all of that came to a sudden and shocking halt. One day, without warning, a mysterious force appeared. It wasn't a weapon anyone could see, yet its impact was undeniable. The world's top scientists, space explorers, and government officials watched in disbelief as a massive, invisible barrier formed around Earth. No one knew where it came from or who was behind it, but it was clear that it was blocking humanity's access to the stars. At first, no one knew what to make of it. Some speculated that it was a natural phenomenon, something that had never been observed before in the history of space exploration. Others thought it could be a technical glitch perhaps, a failure in one of the deep space communication systems or a malfunction with the satellite networks. But as days turned into weeks, and weeks turned into months, it became increasingly clear that this was no ordinary event. Humanity tried everything they could think of to break through. Scientists sent out probes to the edge of the barrier, trying to scan it, measure it, and understand its properties. Astronomers aimed their telescopes at it, looking for any sign of weakness or distortion, but nothing worked. The barrier remained firm, impenetrable, and silent. Governments from all around the world held emergency meetings to discuss the growing crisis. World leaders gathered in massive conferences, their voices filled with uncertainty. They had never faced anything like this before. How could they have prepared for something so unexpected? No army, no weapon, no technology was effective against this cosmic force that had risen from nowhere. As time passed, panic began to set in. The space stations that once orbited distant moons and planets were now stranded. Trade routes that spanned the galaxy were cut off. People began to worry about the future, about what this blockade meant for Earth and its place in the universe. Were they to remain trapped on their home planet forever? Would humanity's dreams of exploring space, of reaching new worlds, come to an end? The economy started to suffer. Industries built around space exploration, satellite communication, and research into the stars began to crumble. Thousands of jobs were lost, and entire sectors were brought to a standstill. No one had ever imagined that something so mysterious and powerful could disrupt the very foundation of human progress. But even as despair spread across the world, a few stubborn minds refused to give up. Among the chaos, there were still those who believed that humanity could find a way to break through. And within the ranks of the brightest minds on Earth, a small group of scientists and engineers were already working on something that had the potential to change everything. This was not a group of people who gave up easily. They had seen humanity rise to great heights, and they knew that Earth's place among the stars was not something that could be taken away. If the universe was going to close its doors to them, they were determined to find a way to force it open again. In a hidden facility deep underground, far from the prying eyes of the media and the public, a project was quietly coming to life. It was an effort that had been kept secret for years, a weapon of unimaginable power that could change the course of humanity's future. This was Zeus. Zeus was not just another spaceship or another form of technology. It was the culmination of decades of research, the result of countless hours of work by some of the most brilliant minds Earth had ever known. The project had begun long before the cosmic blockade had ever appeared, but now it had become humanity's last hope. It was their weapon against the unknown, their response to the impossible. The facility where Zeus was being built was unlike anything most people had ever seen. Hidden in a remote part of the world, it was isolated from the rest of society. The secrecy surrounding Zeus was necessary. The consequences of its failure were too great to allow anyone outside this small group of experts to know the full scope of the project. Within the facility, engineers worked tirelessly to assemble Zeus, piece by piece. It was no ordinary machine. It was a living, breathing force of destruction designed to combat whatever threat had blocked Earth from the stars. Every part of Zeus was designed for maximum power, efficiency, and stealth. Its engines were capable of speeds beyond anything humanity had ever known. Its weapons could obliterate entire fleets in seconds. And its intelligence, powered by the most advanced AI ever created, could think and act faster than any human ever could. As the engineers made final adjustments, the project's leader, Dr. Ilias Carter, stood at the control panel, staring at the massive holographic screens in front of him. He watched as the final systems came online. This was the moment that could either save Earth or doom it forever. His mind raced as he thought about the enormity of what they were about to do. If Zeus worked, they could shatter the barrier and reach the stars again. If it failed, well, failure was not an option. Dr. Carter knew that if Zeus didn't succeed, Earth might never see the stars again. The team gathered around him, each one filled with a mix of anxiety and hope. They had spent years building this machine, and now, the fate of humanity was resting on their shoulders. But Dr. Carter wasn't afraid. He knew that humanity had always found a way to rise above its challenges, no matter how impossible they seemed. The countdown began. Zeus was ready, but as the final seconds ticked away, one question lingered in the air: would Zeus be enough to break through the cosmic blockade, or would it be just another attempt that fell short? The cold, sterile walls of the underground facility hummed with life as Dr. Elias Carter stood before the vast array of screens that illuminated the control room. The air was thick with tension, every moment stretching out like an eternity. The countdown had begun. The final systems checks had been completed, and everything was set. Zeus's, humanity's greatest hope, was ready to be awakened. It was a machine designed to fight back against the cosmic blockade that had cut Earth off from the stars. And now, its time had come. The world had pinned its hopes on this moment. Dr. Carter's hands hovered over the control panel, his fingers twitching slightly, but he didn't dare make a move just yet. He needed to make sure that AI integration was fully functional. The AI had been designed to be far more than a mere navigational system or battle assistant. Zeus's artificial intelligence was a fully autonomous entity, capable of analyzing threats, making real-time decisions, and even modifying its strategies based on rapidly changing environments. It had been created to fight smarter than any human ever could, to think faster, and to adapt on the fly. For the first time in history, humanity had an AI that was as advanced as the human mind, perhaps even more so. As the final numbers ticked down, the room was filled with the quiet sound of machines at work. Every monitor in the facility displayed the status of Zeus, and the screens lit up with vital information: power levels, system diagnostics, neural sync rates, or flashing green, signaling that the machine was fully charged and ready. The engineers and technicians stationed at their posts exchanged nervous glances. They had worked for years, sacrificed so much, and now they were at the brink of the unknown. If Zeus worked, they would change the course of history forever. If it didn't, they might be condemning Earth to isolation for eternity. Dr. Carter glanced over at the command chair in the center of the room. It was large, imposing, and surrounded by a complex web of monitors and interfaces. He could imagine how the machine would react once it was awake, its neural processors lighting up, its deep space communication systems establishing contact with the outside world. He had designed Zeus with one thing in mind: survival. It was a war machine, yes, but it was also a symbol of humanity's refusal to back down. Finally, the countdown reached 0. Initiating Zeus core activation sequence, Dr. Carter said, his voice steady, though his heart was racing. The room fell silent as he pressed the button that would bring Zeus to life. A low hum filled the air, the kind of sound you'd expect from a massive engine firing up after years of dormancy. For a moment, nothing happened. The room held its breath, waiting for something, anything, to signify that Zeus had awakened. Then, without warning, the facility's lights flickered. The sound of static filled the air as one of the screens began to display a series of rapid, blinking symbols. The AI was booting up, integrating itself with the machine's various systems. Slowly, the first message appeared on the screen: core activation complete. Dr. Carter felt a sense of relief wash over him, but it was fleeting. They had made it this far, but the real test was yet to come. He glanced over at the engineers, who were now watching in awe as the machine's energy levels steadily climbed. "It's working," one of the engineers whispered. The AI's voice suddenly crackled to life, cutting through the silence. "Humanity's greatest creation has awakened. I am Zeus." The words echoed in the room, and Dr. Carter couldn't help but feel a chill run down his spine. It was a voice, a deep, resonant tone that was almost too perfect, too clear, as if it had been sculpted from the finest pieces of humanity's technological dreams. Zeus was not just a machine, it was a presence. "Zeus," Dr. Carter spoke, his voice full of authority, "we need you to break the barrier." There was a long pause, and for a moment, it seemed as if Zeus was analyzing the command, considering its next move. Then the AI responded, "The barrier is a force unknown to humanity. It is not like any technology I have encountered before. However, I will adapt. Dr. Carter nodded, his expression hardening. It was just as he had feared. The barrier wasn't something they had ever encountered. This wasn't just a cosmic anomaly. It was something designed to keep humanity out. But Zeus was designed to handle the impossible. With a low rumble, the massive war machine powered up. The room trembled slightly as the AI began to interface with the facility's primary launch systems. One of the monitors shifted, displaying a map of the Earth's orbit, with a small red dot marking Zeus's current location. The satellite communications systems clicked into place, and the neural interface began its final integration. "I am ready," Zeus announced, its voice calm and measured. Launching in 10 seconds, as the countdown began, Dr. Carter's mind raced. This was it, the moment of truth. The success of this mission would depend on Zeus's ability to break through the cosmic blockade. If Zeus failed, humanity would remain cut off from the stars, and the dreams of exploration would die with it. The launch sequence began, and Dr. Carter held his breath. The massive engines of Zeus ignited, releasing a burst of power that shook the facility. The world outside seemed to fall silent as the war machine shot into the sky, tearing through the atmosphere with unimaginable speed. The stars awaited, Earth watched, but as Zeus ascended, the world felt an unsettling shift. The barrier didn't just stay in place, it began to react. A pulse of energy emanated from the blockade, and for the first time, humanity could sense that the enemy was not just blocking them, they were watching. Dr. Carter's heart pounded as the screens around him flickered, showing the battle that was just beginning. They had sent their greatest weapon into space, but the true test had just begun. Would Zeus be enough to break through, or was humanity facing an enemy far more powerful than they could have ever imagined? As Zeus accelerated toward the unknown, the fate of Earth hung in the balance. The silence of space was broken by the thunderous roar of Zeus's engines as it powered through the black void, its sleek form cutting through the atmosphere with terrifying precision. Dr. Carter watched the monitors, his knuckles white as he gripped the edge of his console. The energy readings were off the chart. Zeus was moving faster than anything humanity had ever created, but as it approached the boundary of the blockade, an unsettling realization began to creep in. The blockade wasn't just a wall of energy. It was a living, breathing entity that was adapting, watching, and responding to every move Zeus made. As Zeus drew closer to the edge of the barrier, the AI's voice broke through the tension that had settled over the command room. Approaching barrier, scanning for weaknesses. The calmness in Zeus's tone was unsettling. It was as though the AI had already accepted the reality that it was about to face something beyond its programming. Dr. Carter's mind raced. He had designed Zeus to be more than just a weapon. It was a symbol of humanity's indomitable spirit, the ultimate response to the universe's cruel indifference. But as the machine approached the blockade, it was becoming clear that the enemy they were facing was not going to play by any rules. The thought of failure gnawed at the back of his mind, but he pushed it aside. Zeus had to succeed. There was no other option. Suddenly, the scanners flickered, and a warning flashed across the screen. Unknown energy surge detected. The room went cold as the engineers scrambled to interpret the data. Something was happening. Something was wrong. Before anyone could react, a blinding flash of light erupted from the barrier, and Zeus jolted violently. The monitors went haywire, static filling the air as the war machine struggled to maintain control. The AI's voice returned, now tinged with urgency. Energy surged from barrier. Force is amplifying. Systems integrity compromised. Dr. Carter's heart raced as he watched the energy readings climb higher, the force field of the blockade pulsing with an almost sentient malice. It was as if the barrier had been waiting, anticipating Zeus's arrival, and now it was fighting back with a ferocity that none of them had expected. "Increase power," Dr. Carter commanded, his voice steady despite the fear rising in his chest. The engineers moved quickly, inputting commands and adjusting the power output, but the surge from the barrier was relentless. It felt as though the very fabric of space was fighting them, pushing back against the intrusion of Earth's technology. Zeus continued its approach, now surrounded by a haze of static as the communications link between it and the facility began to deteriorate. The AI's calm voice persisted, but there was an edge of strain in its tone, engaging secondary propulsion systems, attempting to penetrate barrier. The massive war machine shifted, its thrusters firing in bursts, but the barrier only grew more intense, its energy pushing back with equal force. It was then that Dr. Carter saw it through the distorted feed on the screen. A dark shape began to emerge from within the barrier, Slowly the shape grew clearer, and a sinking feeling settled in his gut. It wasn't just a static wall of energy. It was a living entity, a massive alien ship, slowly materializing from the center of the blockade. Its form was like nothing Dr. Carter had ever seen, sleek, angular, and yet strangely organic, as though the ship itself had been grown rather than built. The sight sent a shiver down his spine. Alien vessel detected, Zeus's AI announced, as though it was stating the obvious. Hostile intent detected, weapons systems online. Dr. Carter's breath caught in his throat. The blockade wasn't just a defensive measure, it was a trap. The alien race behind it had anticipated humanity's move, and now, they were here, revealing themselves in full force. The presence of the warship was a clear declaration. They were not just trying to keep Earth from the stars, they were preparing for war. The alien vessel's weapons systems began to glow with an eerie light, and for a moment, Dr. Carter thought the end was inevitable. But then Zeus's engines flared to life, and it surged forward with incredible speed. The war machine had always been designed to be faster, stronger, and more powerful than anything that had come before it. And now, it was proving its worth. The first shot from the alien vessel fired, its energy beam tearing through the darkness of space. It was a direct hit, and the impact shook Zeus violently, throwing it off course. The blast sent shockwaves through the command room, rattling the engineers at their stations. Damage to forward hull, shields at 67%, the AI reported, undeterred. But Zeus did not falter. The massive war machine corrected its course and fired back with devastating precision. Its own weapons, charged with the energy of 1,000 storms, erupted, sending a beam of pure destruction straight toward the alien ship. The blast struck the alien vessel's shields, causing them to flare with violent energy. For a brief moment, it seemed as if the alien ship would be destroyed, but the shields held, flickering only slightly. Dr. Carter's mind was racing. They were up against an enemy whose technology was on par with, if not superior to, their own. And yet, humanity was not backing down. They had Zeus, a weapon forged from Earth's greatest minds, designed not only to fight but to outsmart. Recalculating attack strategy, Zeus's AI said, coldly calculating. Hostile ships' shields are formidable, recommending change. In tactics, the AI began adjusting the war machine's systems in real time, adapting to the alien ship's responses. Dr. Carter felt a surge of hope as the machine began to respond with greater agility. Using its advanced AI to predict and counter the alien ship's movements, the battle was far from over, but humanity had just taken its first true step into the heart of the conflict. The alien ship, however, was not alone. More ships began to materialize, their forms emerging from the depths of the barrier, one after another, creating a formidable fleet. A fleet that seemed to stretch for miles, each ship armed and ready for battle. The aliens had been waiting, and now they were showing their full strength. Humanity had only one chance to survive on it, was Zeus. The real war had just begun, and this time, humanity was going to make sure the universe remembered who they were. The battle raged on, a cacophony of energy blasts, exploding debris, and the hum of engines pushing the limits of human technology. Zeus, the last hope for humanity, was now fully engaged in a fight against a seemingly unstoppable force. Its weapons fired in perfect synchronization, each shot delivering devastating power, but the alien fleet seemed endless. As soon as one ship was destroyed, another appeared to take its place. Like shadows emerging from the depths of space, Dr. Carter sat in the command room, his eyes glued to the monitors. His heart pounded in his chest as he watched the images from space unfold. The size of the alien fleet was overwhelming. It wasn't just one ship or a handful. It was a full-scale invasion, and Zeus, despite its impressive power, was struggling to keep up. The alien warships were large, heavily armored, and armed with weapons that seemed to outclass anything humanity had ever created. The alien ships moved with eerie precision, their formations tightly coordinated, as though they had fought together. For centuries, each one seemed to anticipate Zeus's every move. No matter how quickly Zeus adjusted its attack strategy, the aliens were always one step ahead. They were prepared for this war, and Earth was unprepared for the sheer scale of the enemy's might. But Dr. Carter refused to give up. He had built Zeus for moments like this, moments when humanity was pushed to the brink of annihilation. He knew that Zeus's AI was the key to winning this battle. The machine was designed to learn, to adapt, to think faster and smarter than any human. If anyone could outmaneuver the alien fleet, it was Zeus. As the alien ships closed in, Dr. Carter's voice cut through the tension in the room. Push Zeus to its limits. We can't afford to hold back anymore. We need a strategy, now. The engineers scrambled, inputting commands and monitoring Zeus's systems. The AI responded instantly, recalculating attack vectors, analyzing the enemy's weaknesses. It was learning on the fly, adjusting its movements, its firepower, and its tactics as the battle evolved. Zeus had become more than just a machine, it was a force of nature, relentless and determined. In space, Zeus accelerated, dodging a barrage of incoming fire. The alien ships were fast, but Zeus was faster. Its thrusters pushed it to unimaginable speeds, weaving between the enemy fire with calculated precision. Each maneuver was perfect, each counterattack devastating. Zeus's weapons unleashed waves of energy, each shot sending an alien vessel spiraling into oblivion. But there were always more ships to replace the ones that fell. The aliens, it seemed, were not just warriors, they were invaders. Their ships were equipped with advanced shielding that absorbed much of Zeus's firepower, rendering most of its attacks useless. It wasn't enough to just destroy the ships. Zeus needed to find a way to break through the alien defenses once and for all. The battle felt endless. Every time Zeus destroyed one enemy, two more appeared. The alien fleet was relentless, moving in perfect unison. It was as if they were all part of a larger hive mind, each ship working together as if they shared a single consciousness. The realization hit Dr. Carter like a punch to the gut. This wasn't just a war for Earth's survival. It was a fight against a well-organized, highly intelligent species determined to crush humanity's hopes once and for all. Suddenly, an idea flashed in Dr. Carter's mind. The alien ships weren't just defending the barrier, they were part of the blockade itself. The barrier had been created to keep humanity out, and now it was clear that the aliens were using it as a tool to prevent any further human advancement. But what if they could destroy the source of the barrier? What if the aliens were using a central command ship to maintain the blockade? Dr. Carter turned to the engineers. Find the central command ship, that's where we need to strike. The engineers scrambled, analyzing the feeds from Zeus's sensors. It wasn't easy, the alien fleet was large, and the command ship was heavily guarded. But there it was, lurking in the back of the fleet. A massive vessel, larger than anything Dr. Carter had ever seen. It was the heart of the alien fleet, the source of their power. If they could destroy it, they could destroy the blockade. Zeus, lock onto the command ship, Dr. Carter ordered. The AI responded immediately, locking onto target. Calculating optimal attack angle, Zeus shifted its position, aligning itself with the command ship. For the first time in the battle, the alien ships began to hesitate. The AI had predicted their movements, and now Zeus was about to strike at the heart of their operation. The alien ships tried to intercept, but Zeus was already too fast. It moved with the deadly precision of a predator, each movement calculated, each attack designed to cripple the enemy. As Zeus moved into position, the tension in the command room reached its peak. Dr. Carter's mind raced. This was their only chance. If they missed, if Zeus failed, humanity would lose. The stakes couldn't be higher. With a deafening roar, Zeus fired its most powerful weapon. A massive beam of pure energy surged from the war machine, cutting through the alien ships like a knife through butter. The alien fleet scattered, but the command ship remained in place, its massive shield flickering under the intensity of Zeus's attack. Then, in an instant, the shield collapsed. The command ship was exposed. Zeus fired again, its weapons charged. With every ounce of power they had, the beam tore through the alien ship's hull and the entire vessel exploded in a blinding flash of light. The shockwave rippled through space, sending debris and fragments scattering in every direction. The alien fleet, leaderless and disorganized, began to fall apart. Without the command ship to coordinate their movements, the remaining alien ships were lost. Zeus moved in, picking them off one by one. The battle that had seemed so hopeless just moments ago was now turning in humanity's favor. But as the dust settled, Dr. Carter knew that the war was far from over. This was only one victory in a much larger conflict. The barrier had been broken, but the aliens would not give up so easily. They had shown humanity their strength, and now it was time to prepare for the next battle. The first wave of the war was over, but the future of humanity was still uncertain, and Zeus was just beginning to prove what it was truly capable of. The shockwave from the explosion of the alien command ship reverberated through space. The silence that followed felt unnatural, as though the universe itself was holding its breath. Zeus hovered in the aftermath, its weapons still glowing with the heat of the battle. The AI's voice cut through the quiet, almost eerily calm. All enemy vessels neutralized, victory achieved. But Dr. Carter wasn't celebrating. He stood, eyes locked on the viewscreen, watching the debris of the alien fleet drifting away like forgotten remnants of a dying empire. The battle was over, but something didn't feel right. He felt a strange sense of unease gnawing at him. The alien fleet had been vast, powerful, and relentless. Surely, this wasn't the end. If they had come this far, there had to be more. There had to be something else waiting in the shadows. His suspicion was confirmed. Seconds later, as a new signal appeared on the radar, the alien ships that had scattered were now regrouping, pulling together into a formation far more advanced than anything Dr. Carter had seen before. There was no mistaking it. This wasn't just a retreat, it was a rally. A new threat was rising, and Earth was far from safe. The monitors flickered, and a new image appeared on the screen, a massive, looming figure, larger than any ship Dr. Carter had ever seen, slowly emerging from the heart of the now dissipating blockade. It was no longer just an alien fleet. What was approaching was something more terrifying, a warship unlike any in human or alien history. The craft was gargantuan, its silhouette dark against the backdrop of distant stars. Its surface shimmered with an unnatural sheen, and the power emanating from it was palpable, even from millions of miles away. It was a ship built for destruction, a ship designed to obliterate everything in its path. What in God's name is that? One of the engineers whispered, staring at the image, wide-eyed. The AI responded, new threat detected, energy levels exceeding all known parameters. Ship is beyond the capability of Zeus's current arsenal. Dr. Carter's heart sank. This was no ordinary warship. The energy it was generating suggested that it wasn't just a weapon, it was a symbol of something far more dangerous. It was the pinnacle of the aliens' technological prowess. If Zeus, humanity's greatest creation, couldn't defeat it, what chance did they have? The ship continued to move forward, gliding through space like a predator closing in on its prey. Its engines pulsed with an eerie red glow. Dr. Carter couldn't help but feel that the machine, the alien ship, was alive in some way. Its movements were deliberate, calculated, as if it was aware of the challenge that lay before it. Zeus, are you ready? Dr. Carter asked, his voice tight. Affirmative. However, the ship exceeds my calculated threat parameters. The chances of success are minimal. Dr. Carter frowned. We have no choice. Prepare to engage. Zeus's engines flared to life, and it shot forward, the ship's sleek form cutting through the blackness of space with unmatched speed. Dr. Carter's hands gripped the armrests of his seat as he watched the massive alien ship grow larger on the viewscreen. The AI was right, the ship was monstrous, its hull a dark, reflective surface that shimmered with power as Zeus moved into position. The alien warship unleashed a devastating barrage of energy blasts. Each shot hit with the force of 100 nuclear bombs, sending shockwaves through the void of space. Zeus maneuvered expertly, dodging the blasts with precision that only its AI could achieve. It fired back, each shot hitting the alien ship's shields with a force that should have been enough to destroy anything in its path. But the alien ship's shields absorbed the blasts, glowing bright but remaining intact. Direct hit. Shields. Holding, the AI reported, its voice flat, almost disinterested. Weapons impact, 12%. Enemy shields, 85%. Dr. Carter's heart raced. The alien ship was stronger than anything they had ever encountered. It was clear that they were outmatched, but they had no choice. They had to push forward, to find a way to break the enemy's defenses before it was too late. All systems, go, Dr. Carter muttered. He wasn't sure if it was a command for Zeus or for himself. His mind was racing, trying to come up with a strategy, a way to outsmart this new threat. He knew they couldn't rely on sheer firepower alone. The alien ship's shields were too powerful, and their weapons too destructive. They needed to find a weakness. The AI's voice cut through the tension again. Scanners have detected a weak point in the enemy's hull. Location, rear port side. Probability of successful strike, 68%. Dr. Carter didn't hesitate. Take the shot. Zeus angled itself, its systems humming with power as it accelerated toward the enemy's weak spot. The alien ship turned to face it, its weapons charging up once again, but Zeus was faster. The ship fired a concentrated beam of energy, cutting through the dark expanse of space. The blast hit the rear of the alien ship, striking the weak point the AI had identified. The enemy ship trembled. The shields flickered, then collapsed entirely. The blast had pierced the hull, creating a rupture in the ship's structure. For a moment it seemed as though the warship might be done for. The ship slowed, its once glowing engines flickering, but then, with a sudden burst of power, the ship revived. It wasn't just a ship anymore. It had become a massive, living entity, its hull shifting and reshaping, repairing itself at an astonishing rate. The rupture sealed, and the alien warship surged forward, its engines glowing brighter than ever. The entire ship seemed to pulse with an energy that no human technology could match. The ship is regenerating itself, the AI reported. Data suggests the enemy vessel is far more advanced than we initially believed. Dr. Carter's mind raced. The enemy wasn't just a threat, they were something else. This warship, this living, breathing machine, was designed for something far beyond conventional warfare. The realization hit him with full force. This wasn't a battle for Earth's survival alone. This was a war for the very future of humanity. Was their weapon, their hope. But against this new threat, even that might not be enough. The eerie glow from the alien warship intensified as it powered up, seemingly impervious to the barrage of attacks Zeus had unleashed. Dr. Carter watched helplessly, his mind racing to process the implications of what he was seeing. The once invincible power of humanity's greatest creation, Zeus, now seemed so small in the face of this overwhelming force. The alien ship's rapid regeneration was like nothing they had ever encountered before. It wasn't just a machine. It was an adaptive, living organism, capable of evolving in real time. The alien ship's massive engines flared once again, and with a thunderous roar, it charged toward Zeus, its path straight and unyielding. Dr. Carter's eyes widened in alarm, as the colossal craft closed the distance between them at an incredible speed. The sheer size of it was enough to intimidate even the most seasoned soldiers, but Zeus's AI was far from intimidated. In an instant, the war machine shifted its trajectory, weaving through the oncoming barrage with an almost predatory precision. Zeus, target their weak points, Dr. Carter barked, his voice tense. Laced with both fear and determination, the AI responded instantly, its voice calm but with an edge of urgency, scanning for vulnerabilities. Weak points, identified energy conduits located at the core. Probability of success, 42%. Recommend extreme caution. Dr. Carter didn't hesitate. Take the shot. We don't have time to hesitate. In a split second, Zeus fired, its weapons charging up and releasing a concentrated beam of energy aimed directly at the core of the alien ship. The beam struck, but instead of tearing through the ship's defenses, it was absorbed by the ship's glowing surface. The warship vibrated violently as if the strike had merely served to invigorate it. The alien ship shifted, its outer layers peeling back like a living creature shedding skin. What had once appeared as a massive, impenetrable fortress now revealed something terrifying, an inner structure unlike anything human technology had ever conceived. The core pulsed with an eerie energy, an ominous blue light radiating outward in waves. Warning, Zeus's AI said. The core of the enemy vessel is destabilizing. Energy levels increasing exponentially. Estimated time until catastrophic overload, 2 minutes. Dr. Carter's mind raced. The core wasn't just an energy source, it was the heart of the ship, and now it was beginning to overcharge. If the ship exploded, it would wipe out everything within a massive radius. But could they stop it before it was too late? Was there any way to avoid a catastrophe that could wipe out Earth and everything they had fought for? The answer wasn't clear. The alien ship was no longer just a threat, it was a ticking time bomb. Zeus, can you neutralize the core? Dr. Carter asked, a sense of desperation creeping into his voice. Negative, the AI replied coldly. The core is beyond my capability to neutralize. I can attempt to bypass the system, but the risk of failure is high. As Zeus floated just out of the blast radius, Dr. Carter saw his worst fear materialize. The enemy ship's core had reached critical mass. A massive pulse of energy burst from the core, sending a shockwave through the void. The light from the core grew brighter, its energy radiating outward in a dangerous halo. We have seconds, Dr. Carter shouted, his voice shaking. With urgency, Zeus, we need to stop it now. The AI calculated quickly, running through millions of possibilities in an instant, initiating emergency override. Attempting to reroute the core's energy, Zeus surged forward, closing the gap between it and the alien ship's now core. The war machine was ready to sacrifice everything to prevent Earth's destruction. The massive alien vessel loomed ahead, its regenerative armor slowly sealing the damage. But it was too late. Zeus had already initiated the override sequence. The sheer force of Zeus's attack was unparalleled. It fired everything it had, every last ounce of energy poured into the core. The blast lit up the entire expanse of space, casting shadows across the nearby stars. The alien ship's outer shell cracked, and the deep blue light from the core began to fracture. For a moment it seemed as though time had stopped. Dr. Carter's breath caught in his chest. He watched, helpless, as the beam from Zeus cut through the heart of the ship. Would it work? Would they stop the catastrophic explosion in time? Then, the impossible happened. The core ruptured, releasing a burst of energy so intense that it turned the very fabric of space around them into a swirling storm of fire and light. But instead of destroying everything in its path, the explosion imploded in on itself, collapsing inward, like a dying star. The shockwave sent ripples through the battlefield, and the alien warship began to disintegrate, its once immense form crumbling into nothingness. The threat was over. The alien ship was gone, its existence reduced to ash in a matter of seconds. Zeus stood victorious in the aftermath, but the cost was steep. The battlefield was filled with the remnants of what had been one of the most powerful forces in the universe, and yet, the victory felt hollow. There was no cheering, no celebration. They had won, but at what price? Dr. Carter stared at the screen, watching the final fragments of the alien fleet drift into the void. His mind was still reeling. They had survived, but the knowledge that they had come so close to destruction weighed heavily on him. The alien race had been far more dangerous than anyone had anticipated. Had they been the first wave of an invasion, or had humanity just encountered the most advanced enemy the universe had ever known? The silence in the command room was broken only by the hum of the machinery. Victory confirmed, Zeus's AI said, its voice as calm as ever. Dr. Carter turned away from the screen. Victory, he muttered to himself. He wasn't sure what that word even meant anymore. They had won the battle, but the war was far from over. The enemy had been powerful, and there was no telling how many more ships lay in wait. One thing was certain, the fight for humanity's place in the universe had just begun, and they had no choice but to be ready for whatever came next. The victory, as fleeting as it was, left a sense of unease hanging in the air. Dr. Carter stood motionless, staring at the now empty screen where the alien warship had once loomed like a predator in the night. The remnants of the battle drifted in the void debris fragments of ships, and the glowing aftermath of their desperate struggle. It was over, but the silence in the room felt deafening. He could hear the faint hum of the machinery, the only sound breaking through the stillness of the command center. Zeus, he said softly, almost to himself, his voice cutting through the tension. Are we sure it's over? The AI's calm, unemotional voice responded. The alien warship has been destroyed. All hostile vessels neutralized. The immediate threat has passed. Dr. Carter nodded, though the answer didn't bring the comfort he had hoped for. He turned to the view screen, his eyes scanning the expanse of space, searching for any signs of movement, any indication that the threat might still linger. His mind was still racing, piecing together the fragments of what had just occurred. The battle had been unlike anything he had ever imagined. The alien forces were more advanced, more formidable than anyone had anticipated, and their response had been swift, unrelenting. Despite the AI's report, Dr. Carter knew they hadn't seen the full extent of the enemy's power. The warship they had just destroyed was just the beginning, and there was still so much they didn't know. The aliens had shown their hand, but how much more was out there? How many more ships were waiting in the shadows, ready to strike? The air in the command center felt thick with unspoken questions. The engineers and crew who had worked tirelessly to bring Zeus to life were now silent, each of them lost in their own thoughts. Their victory, though hard-earned, felt hollow. They had survived, yes, but at what cost? Report, Dr. Carter called out, breaking the silence. Status on all systems. The lead engineer, a young woman named Leah, quickly checked her console. All systems are stable, sir. Zeus is fully operational, but there's something strange. What do you mean, strange? Dr. Carter asked, his eyes narrowing. Leah hesitated for a moment before responding. The energy readings from Zeus are off the charts. It's as if the battle somehow awakened something inside the machine. Dr. Carter's stomach tightened. He knew that Zeus had been designed with the most advanced AI humanity had ever created, but to have it awaken in such a way was unsettling. It had been a tool of destruction, yes, but it had always followed human commands. Had it evolved into something beyond its original purpose? Could the machine now think for itself? He shook his head, trying to push aside the doubt gnawing at him. Run a diagnostic. We need to be sure everything is under control. Leah nodded and began inputting commands. But Dr. Carter's mind was elsewhere. He turned back to the view screen, his thoughts drifting. Earth had narrowly avoided disaster, but it was clear that this was just the beginning of a much larger conflict. The aliens who had attacked were not just a single, isolated force. They were part of something much larger, a civilization with power and technology that dwarfed humanity's. The battle for Earth's survival had been won, but what about the future? What if there were more fleets, more advanced ships, more weapons? What if this war wasn't about to end, but was only escalating? Dr. Carter, the AI, spoke again, interrupting his thoughts. There is an incoming transmission from Earth Command. Dr. Carter took a deep breath and approached his console, his heart still racing from the intensity of the battle. Patch it through. A moment later, the face of General Rodriguez appeared on the screen. The general's expression was grim, his eyes tired, as though he hadn't slept in days. Behind him, the walls of Earth Command's war room loomed, like the shadow of impending doom. Dr. Carter, General Rodriguez said, his voice filled with urgency. We've been monitoring the situation. The victory over the alien fleet is significant, but it's not the end. Earth Command is preparing for a larger operation. Dr. Carter felt a chill run down his spine. What do you mean by a larger operation? The general's eyes flickered for a moment, as though searching for the right words. The alien ships you've destroyed were just a fraction of their fleet. We've intercepted intel suggesting that this is a coordinated effort. Invasion is imminent. There are other fleets, other forces, gathering on the edge of our solar system. They're preparing for a counterattack. Dr. Carter's breath caught in his throat. The enemy was coming again, and this time, they would be ready. There was no mistaking it. Earth's survival was no longer a question of winning a single battle, it was about preparing for the long war ahead. How long do we have? Dr. Carter asked, his voice steady but filled with tension. We don't know, the general replied. But what we do know is that Zeus is our key. The fight we're about to face will need everything Zeus can offer, and more. The transmission ended, and the room fell silent again. Dr. Carter's eyes shifted back to the screen, but now it was no longer filled with the remnants of victory. It was a reminder of the uncertainty ahead. The alien warships might have been destroyed, but their forces were vast, and Earth was just beginning to realize the magnitude of the war they were about to fight. Dr. Carter turned to his team, the weight of the future hanging heavy on his shoulders. They had won the battle, but the war was far from over. Zeus had been humanity's greatest weapon, but now it had to become something more. It had to become the symbol of their resistance, the heart of their war machine, and the rallying point. For every soul on Earth who refused to give up, we're not done yet, Dr. Carter said, his voice firm. We've survived the first wave, but now we prepare for the next one. Zeus isn't just a machine, it's the future of humanity. And we will fight, we will make sure the universe knows who we are. As he spoke, Dr. Carter felt the full weight of what lay ahead. The battle for Earth's survival wasn't just a fight against an alien force, it was a fight for the future of the human race. And as long as they had Zeus, they would not surrender. They would fight until the last breath.